Hey everybody, my name is James and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about shutter speed, aperture, and ISO. Let's get into it. Okay, so shutter speed is the measurement of time in your photo. It's how long your shutter is open, exposing your sensor to light. Say you're at the beach, it's sunny, it's summertime, and boom, you took a photo, okay? Probably at like 1000 depending on how bright it is outside, but it's the measurement of time in your photo. Another good way to see this is with a fan. If you take a photo of a fan blade and you have it at a higher shutter speed, you take a photo quickly, it'll kind of capture that moment frozen in time. However, if you're at a slower shutter speed, say to like maybe 30, you might get this motion blur. If you ever see night photography where they have like these light beams that are just going, or like with people's hair, I would say is a good example. When the wind's blowing, the hair is going like crazy. You can see a lot of motion blur the lower the shutter speed. Alright, the next thing is aperture. And aperture is your depth of field. If you see on your camera, the lens, it has this F and like a slash, that's called the f-stop, or aperture, it's the same thing. The lower the setting, the wider your aperture blades will be. They're like the little like maybe 5 or 8 depending on what kind of lens you have, the blades that kind of come around. The lower the setting, the wider it's gonna be. It's gonna create this super shallow depth of field. I went out to the beach and I took this photo of this cliffside with the lighthouse in the middle. You can see how it really focuses on the side of it. All of that's in focus, and I have a super shallow depth of field going on with the aperture really low. And then I took the same photo and now I kind of let in a lot more of the background. A higher aperture kind of lets in more of the landscape. And I took another photo right here of these little flowers and the beach in the background. You can see the same thing, you know, the shallower the depth of field, it really just blurs out the rest of the background. And then the same photo taken with a higher f-stop, I think I was at 10, I might be wrong. But you can see more of the background starts to come into focus, and that's how you can determine your aperture. Aperture is really good for portrait photography. You see a lot of like faces fully in focus and then like the background super blurred out. Quicker lenses will get you that, you know, like a prime lens, anywhere from like a 35, a 50, and 85. Those are all good prime lenses. They probably go down to like 1.8, 1.4, maybe even some as down to 1.2. Those will get you the super blurry backgrounds, and then their subject or the person taking a portrait of is super in focus. Those are awesome. Okay, and lastly I want to talk about ISO. And ISO is just the sensitivity to light that your camera is allowing. Like I said, if you're outside and there's natural sunlight, ISO can be down to 100 and you'll be fine. You won't have a lot of problems with that. Whereas if you're in a darker setting and you are trying to tamper with the rest of the settings, I think I have a photo right here at 1/500th of a second as a shutter count. Aperture is at 3.5, and then the ISO, I start I think at a 100, and I shoot the photo and you can see it's pretty dark, okay? And then I bump it up to 1000. I leave the other settings the same. Aperture is still 3.5. Shutter is at 1/500th of a second, and then I bump up the ISO to 1000. And that's a big difference, right? And then I did it again to kind of like to show you the difference between how the light is being exposed. I leave the ISO at 1000. I bring down the shutter to 100. And it gets a little different. So you can see how these settings kind of all work together hand in hand. So remember, you know, ISO in darker settings will brighten up your photo, but it may start to add some grain or some noise. And that's okay, just be aware of how you're using it. Like I said earlier, if you have a prime lens, a lens with a shallower depth of field, a aperture down to like 1.2, 1.4, even 1.8 will do just fine. You can get a lot more light into your camera. But when you get the more light and you start to bump it up because it is dark outside, do night photography or something like that, ISO will make it brighter, but you have potential of creating some grain. And it's okay, you can work around that, there's nothing wrong with that. Alright, yeah, so let me know in the comments below how you're using your settings, how manual is working out for you, and if you're a beginner, let me know what you've done. Go out, shoot some photos, and get back to me. Comment down below how is that working out for you, how is you being out there, being the guy out with the camera, taking all these photos. How's that working out for you? I'd love to know what you're doing. I would love to connect with you. All my social media is linked down below, so feel free to follow me and shoot me DMs. That's totally fine. I'd love to talk to you guys about what's going on. So yeah guys, thank you so much for hanging out. I hope you enjoyed this video. Give it a huge thumbs up if you did. Share it with your friends and family if you know that they'll like this. If you know a photographer who's trying to get into all this stuff and trying to figure it all out. I remember being there. If you want to see a video about auto and how the settings tell you exactly how to get there, check out this video right here. If you want to see a video about talking to your camera like I'm doing right now and how to overcome the awkwardness of that, check out this video right here, and take care guys. Peace out.